Tonight on News 5 Live, curfew begins at 8 o'clock tonight. No new cases of COVID-19. The Attorney General Michael Curfew discusses the national shutdown and how it works. What are the freedoms and limitations afforded to essential services? Bolido, lottery, and all other games of chance are suspended until further notice. Town and city councils are affected by dwindling subventions. Haitian national was shot and killed in Ladyville, and San Pedro Belize Express steps up to support its lifelong customers from San Pedro and Kikocker. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
With over 100 years of service excellence in Belize,
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Thursday, April 2nd. I am Marlene Cuellar. At 8 o'clock tonight, enforcement of the national shutdown begins in earnest. In the past days, we have been trying our best to adjust to the new normal and to continue to bring you our newscasts as well as our daily Open Your Eyes show on the regular schedule. But the circumstances have changed dramatically, and our staff here at Great Belize Productions, like the rest of the population, will have to be home safely by 8 o'clock. So after much consideration and deliberation, beginning this Friday, News 5 Live will begin half an hour earlier at 6 o'clock from our studios here on Coney Drive. We ask our loyal viewers to continue with us at this new schedule that will be at 6 p.m. As the one-month national curfew goes into effect at 8 o'clock tonight, the good news is that there are no new additional cases of COVID-19. The most recent samples carried out by the Ministry of Health show that the number of cases remain at 3, though the next 10 days are critical. All 3 infected persons are on their way to recovery. According to health officials, the last case, which involves a Belize City resident, is recovering, and so are the mother and daughter from San Pedro. Figures shared by the Ministry of Health show that 103 persons were screened for the virus. In Belize City, 53 persons were screened, with 10 persons under investigation. In Cayo, 24 persons were screened. 3 are also under investigation. In Corozal, 9 persons were swabbed, while in Orange Walk, 5 persons were tested. In Stan Creek, health officials screened 8 persons and 4 in the Toledo district. Attorney General and Minister of National Security Michael Perfitt was the featured guest on the Ask the Expert webcast today. The hour-long program was to talk about the regulations included in the SI and how it will work for Belize as we entered a state of emergency as of midnight on Wednesday. As you know by now, the curfew hours are from 8 in the night to 5 in the morning. But as the minister explains, you're only to use the hours between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. to obtain essential services and goods. He says that law enforcement officers will be on the ground and will question pedestrians and motorists about their movements. If you are found to be moving contrary to the SI, you can be fined as much as $5,000 and see prison time. Here's how he explains it.
If you look at Section 4, for the purposes of preventing, controlling, containing, and suppressing the spread of infectious diseases, COVID-19, and maintaining peace and public order, a curfew is hereby imposed during the hours of 8 p.m. until 4:59 a.m. of the following morning for the entire country of Belize during the period of public emergency declared by proclamation. From 8 p.m. to 5 a.m., we're on curfew. Curfew. For the purposes of subsection 1, no person shall be on the streets or in any public place and on any public road between the hours specified in that sub-regulation. For the purposes of preventing, controlling, and containing and suppressing the spread of COVID-19 at Section 5, sub-regulations 2 and 3, a person shall not loiter, wander, assemble, or otherwise move in any public space or place during the hours of 5 and 8 p.m. 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., the curfew is not in place. But still, if you're in a public space or in a public place, you must be moving with a purpose. You can't loiter, you can't wander, you can't assemble. You have to move. Where you going? I going to work, so then go to work, brother. Where the assembly of, if you notice, we didn't say 10 persons or less. You notice we never said that. We left that out of this document. Why? Because you don't feel assemble at all. 5 in the morning to 8 the night. you must be moving to purchase essential needs. Essential needs. Food, water, what is important. Do not move, if you go to a shop, if you go buy that TV set to you, may always want. That's not an essential need at this time. Essential needs are attending for medical or veterinary attention. Your pet or your dog or something that you have needs medical attention, or you need medical attention. Emergencies. Medical emergency. An essential worker, employee of an approved business going to or from work. So if you're one of the businesses that are on the approved list, you are an essential worker if you work for that business, and you're allowed to go to and from that business during the times of 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. An essential worker acting within the scope of his duties, including but not limited to security guards patrolling, whether on foot or by conveyance, agricultural or factory workers, delivery services, or other similar operations requiring the movement of personnel for the effective conduct of the business of operations. A person stopped and questioned by an officer of the security forces between the hours specified in Subregulation 1, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., who is unable to reasonably explain or prove that his reasons for movement fall within the reasons set out, commits an offense. $5,000 or 2 years of jail if you violate these regulations.
As the situation evolves, Minister Michael Parafit also noted that there are changes to the statutory instrument made by the National Oversight Committee. He explained the sections of 2 of the primary changes and what the public can expect to come from those revisions initially shared with the public on Wednesday.
We've taken out section 4.3 that says sub-regulations 1 and 2 shall not apply to essential workers providing essential services. So we're not giving any option for an essential service person to work during the curfew hours. Not because you are an essential worker means that you can just go willy-nilly 8 the night to 5 the morning. Because even though you may be essential, what you need to do can easily be done between 5 in the morning and 8 at night, which is the earliest that the curfew ends, and right up to when it begins again. No person shall move across any district boundaries, nor across localities within any district, city, town, village, or community, except for the purposes listed in 5.2. If you live Dakayo, because the Oversight Committee never too excited about Metacos thing yesterday. If you live the Belize City then, and you are going to Orange Walk to purchase something, it must be something that is an essential need. You must be attending a doctor. You must have an emergency. You must be an essential worker for a business employee. And you must also demonstrate that you had to make an Orange Walk for it.
The nightly Bolido and Sunday lottery draw are staples in Belizean culture. But along with the 30-day national state of emergency comes a suspension of all those games of chance, which is administered by the Belize Gaming Company, whose contract had been recently extended. On Wednesday, it was said that the game would continue, but early this morning, the games of chance were suspended. On Wednesday night, 31 was the lucky number drawn at 7 p.m., the last public drawing for the next few weeks. The decision to remove it from the list of essential services was taken by the Ministry of Economic Development as the ministry responsible for lotteries. Another concern for many is the freedom to exercise in the morning. While the Attorney General initially frowned at the idea, He has since taken a softer approach, but only on a trial basis. Persons will be allowed to go jogging and exercise at morning time, providing they adhere to the social distancing protocols. Commissioner of Police Chester Williams touched on both issues in an interview with News 5 this morning.
There was some question that was asked in respect to the sale of Bolido, if Bolido is an essential service. And we have went ahead and have now removed Bolido or any gaming from the list. And so Bolido is now suspended until after the state of emergency is removed. Some were also querying about jogging. And as I said this morning on CREM, that there was some discussion in terms of looking on facilitating exercising in the morning time. And again, I've heard the AG today in his address said that we have now come to the agreement that exercising to the extent of running, jogging, or walking is now permitted between the hours of 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. And may I make this emphatically clear that no person will be allowed to exercise during the curfew period. And when persons are exercising, they must ensure that they maintain social distance between themselves while doing so. Because if that is not done, then you will be acting in violation of the regulations. Now, what I think the AG have said to me is that while permission is now being given to exercise in the morning, that we are going to monitor it for this week and we will see how it works. And if we see that too many persons are coming out to exercise, then we might have to put a ban on exercising, because at the end of the day, what we want to do is to ensure that we minimize the amount of persons who are on the streets at any given time.
Essential services include national security, border management and immigration, customs, cabinet and National Assembly members, medical and auxiliary services, vet services, ambulatory services, public utility workers, private security services, social workers for emergencies, sanitation workers, productive sector, agricultural workers, and media workers. So, what are some of the types of establishments permitted to conduct business during non-curfew hours, and whose services and products you may be able to access? It's a long list, and Minister Michael Parafit says that some small changes have been made to it. Here's a look at some of those businesses included.
Between 5 a.m. and 7 p.m., these are the people who can operate. 5 and 7. You notice we never say 5 and 8, you know. 5 and 7. Lock up your shop, 7, and you have time to go home for 8, so they inside. So they don't like the gorilla when they had the drive broke down the door because the task force to come and at 8 o'clock. Fuel stations, fuel depots, LPG suppliers, LPS depots, LPG distributors. You can open from 5 to 7. Public transportation providers, buses, most can only operate between 5 and 7. And remember, you cannot cross your locality for kicks. It must be for a purpose. It must be that you are an essential worker coming from Cayo to Belize City, because that's the way your job there and you are required to be physically on that job. Bakeries and tortilla factories, 5 to 7. Agro-processors, food and carbonated and other beverage manufacturers, 5 to 7. Agricultural and aquaculture farms, 5 to 7. Fishermen, 5 to 7. You notice we say fishers. No, because you might say, well, I want to go up on a boat because I like fishing. No, it's people who fishing for a living. Not people who just like hook to or hoop on a boat by turn F. And nobody like that more than me, but for the next 30 days, I can't do it.
You like a lot of things you do.
I love a lot of things, except be responsible for badge. Construction and construction sites, private and commercial. Waste disposal and sanitation companies and auxiliary personnel. 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Now, this crowd, will have to open later than the fuel depots will open 5. 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Pharmacies, convenience stores, food stores, supermarkets, meat shop, butcher, distributors and factories of carbonated and other beverages, including spirits, excluding potable water and food. Financial institutions, including banks, credit unions, money lending institutions, money transfer institutions, pawn shops. These people who need tech people for going and make sure their business they go correct, bring your tech people in during the day, you know. Hotels, villas, and other rental accommodations. There was a change here as well. The Oversight Committee thought that while hotels should be open, villas and rental accommodation, there should be a qualification. Provided that hotels, villas, and other rental accommodations shall not be open for general business to the public. So you can't go book a hotel within, for the next 30 days, you can go book one hotel that's San Pedro for you to hang out for the next 30 days because you don't like where you live for 30 days. You cannot do that. There has been a change. Yesterday you could have do that from what was written here. What has been adjusted now, you can't do that again. And shall only be open for the purposes of maintenance and housekeeping by its employees. Markets, service of takeout, drive-through facility only at restaurants, saloons, diners, and other similar establishments. Food is important, and we want to make sure that people are provided with the food that they like and for what they want to do. International delivery services by international delivery providers such as DHL, Express, Federal Express, Amerijet. Domestic delivery services related strictly to meals, groceries, medical supplies, and equipment. Mechanic shops, garages, and auto stores. Storefront outlets for essential businesses, public utilities companies, water, light, telecommunications. There has been a change, and these next two paragraphs are the biggest things that we have the most misunderstanding about. And once the Governor General signs these things today, signs these amendments today, then places like Mirab and Simon Kwan that are open right now are going to have to be closed or they will be in violation of the law. First one is hardware stores for delivery services only to approve the businesses allowed to operate under these regulations. If you are a hardware store, you have to close down. And the only way your customers can get your goods or buy your goods and services is if you are willing to deliver it for them. So the shopper for check, but you can operate in the background to deliver goods and services to the people who need it.
So you can't have an open storefront.
You cannot have an open storefront. Wholesalers of goods and services directly related to an approved business allowed to operate under these regulations. Wholesalers, now if you provide to pharmacy, convenience store, financial institutions, hotels, markets, FedEx, if you provide wholesale services to these businesses, bakeries, fishers, whatever, the wholesalers shall operate only to supply to an approved business allowed to operate under these regulations by delivery only by such wholesaler, and you shall not be open for business to the general public.
Again, no storefront.
No storefront open.
The list also includes food mills that can work for 24 hours, but workers are not allowed to be out in public or to commute to work during the curfew hours. The ports are also open for 24 hours. Majority of the government offices are open from 9 to 4 during the week. Minister Parafit also noted that some special arrangements were made to include the Belize Zoo on this list to ensure that the animals are safeguarded and the property is maintained. On Wednesday, essential services employers were invited to submit 2 names of workers to operate during curfew hours of 8 at night to 5 in the morning. Well, those passes are not coming yet, if you're still wondering. At least they're not coming for this week, according to the Minister of National Security. Parafit says that no one should have any reason to work during curfew hours, and anyone found outside after 8 in the night will be arrested.
There will be no passes issued for, at the very least, the first week of this curfew. No passes. So anybody who is out there between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. will be arrested and charged. Nobody has been able to convince me that whatever they say they need to do at 1 in the morning, they can't do between 5 a.m. and 8 p.m. What is it that is so urgent that you cannot wait for 5 o'clock in the morning? Of course, I'm accepting if there's a medical emergency. And in that case, the time it will take for you to get a pass, you want it. The proper thing is to call the police, and the police will come along with and take you to the hospital, and you can go to the hospital and say, look, I'm shot, or I've been stabbed, or I've been hurt. In that case, then clearly there's a medical emergency. Only the Minister of National Security is allowed to grant you a pass. That pass will be signed only by the Minister of National Security. If you have something in your hand and it's not signed by the Minister of National Security, you are not safe and you'll be arrested and charged. That's the rule that's specifically put out here. The pass will look something like this. You'll have the head with the Ministry of National Security, Carl Thompson building. You'll need to state the ministry to which you belong if you're a government employee, your job post, your name, social security number, your employer manager's name, your CEO or your manager will have to sign. This will be sent to the relevant ministry. You're a business, it will be sent to the Ministry of Investment, who will then forward it to either Colonel Enriquez or Colonel Lover from National Security. They will make a determination as to whether you need a pass or not. And then they would then pass it on to me for signing based on their recommendation or on the recommendation of the national security personnel.
Exercising by running, jogging, or walking only. Gyms remain closed, provided that social distance protocols are kept and 3 feet maintained. With a countrywide state of emergency now in effect, it was anticipated that all major streets and thoroughfares would be deserted, leaving cities, towns, and even villages virtually abandoned. But that was not the case today in Belize City. While there was considerably less vehicular and pedestrian traffic, a number of persons were seen conducting business, but police presence appeared to be noticeably minimal. In explaining the law enforcement perspective, Commissioner of Police Chester Williams reiterated that greater emphasis will be placed on adherence to the nightly curfew, which comes into effect at 8 o'clock tonight.
As of 12 midnight this morning, we went into a nationwide state of emergency. The purpose of a state of emergency is for us as a nation, by way of the government, to be able to contain and stop the spread of the COVID-19 virus, which we all know. We already have 3 confirmed cases in Belize. And what does this mean for us as law enforcement? The state of emergency regulations do grant the security forces the powers as well as the responsibility of ensuring that the spirit of the regulations is achieved, in that there are certain things that we must do, as well as there are certain things that the Ministry of Health are supposed to be doing. And with that, the police, the BDF, and the Coast Guard are now tasked of ensuring that law and order is maintained, as well as the other stipulations in the regulations. I'm not going to go through the entire regulation, but just touch those aspects of it that we need to be aware of. And we have, for example, the curfew period, which is from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. We have the non-curfew period from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have the movements of persons during the curfew period and the movement of persons during the non-curfew period, and the issue pertinent to social distance, which is also covered in the regulation. So let me start off by the curfew period. The curfew period, as I said, is from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. And the question then is, who are allowed to move around during the curfew period? Most naturally, law enforcement, who are out and about doing their jobs in ensuring that the curfew law is adhered to. So we have those persons who are stipulated in the regulation as essential workers. And those essential workers are members of security forces, ambulance, or the health services, which will also include ambulance drivers, nurses, doctors. We have the fire, utility companies.
The provisions within the statutory instrument governing the national state of emergency are still unclear for some persons, particularly where it concerns their movement during non-curfew hours. The primary responsibility of law enforcement during this period is to ensure that the citizenry remains honest about its comings and goings. There's an appeal for members of the public to be cooperative with officers who will be asking questions about their whereabouts and movement. In so doing, Compal Williams spoke to various areas of the statutory instrument to provide clarity.
At the end of the day, we don't want to be deceived by persons who may be out for one reason and give us a total different reason for being out. So police will stop you and question you, and I do ask that if or when that occurs, that you just work with the police. At the end of the day, whatever is being done is to ensure the safety of each and every one of us. Now, in terms of the business places that are open during the curfew period, during the non-curfew period, there are a number of them, and the AG had gone through the list extensively and explained basically what those businesses are. And while they are permitted to be open, they still need to ensure that they comply with the social distance regulation, in that the regulation provide that the employer or the establishment owner can determine the number of persons that is allowed to be on the premises at any given time. I know that for today, there have been a number of businesses that were open that do not fall within the scope of the regulation, and we have been around and closing down some of those establishments that we know do not fall within the regulations. Now, we need to look also at the issue as it relates to the persons who are at home. You know, as we say to people, you must stay home. The best remedy is for you to stay home. Some might say, but do we need to be locked up in our homes, or can we come out? Yes, you can come out of your house. You can be in your yard. You can do whatever you want to do in your yard, but you cannot allow more than 10 persons to congregate in your yard if any one of those persons are not from your household. So if it is that 20 of you are from that household, then 20 of you can congregate. But no person from outside shall be allowed to be on your premises.
Coming up, a Haitian cabbie is murdered. And how prepared is Corozal town for the state of emergency? All across the country, people are hunkering down to avert the spread of COVID-19. But in Ladyville, a criminal was on the loose. A Haitian cab driver was murdered and his body found early this morning at his house in the Milpa area. Raymond Cherestal made Belize his home since 1991, and while he is well known, the motive for his execution is not. One of his friends says the cabbie had problems, but the nature of those he did not confirm. From all accounts, Cherestal lived alone since his girlfriend lives overseas. Here is News 5's Isani Caetano with this report.
57-year-old Raymond Cherestal, a former cab driver, was found murdered on the doorsteps of his Ladyville residence this morning. Sometime around 6 a.m., police were called to the far end of Milpa Street, where they observed the lifeless body of the Haitian national. A gunshot wound was visible to the head. It is unclear what happened overnight that resulted in the fatal shooting.
It was like Sunday or Monday, I saw him at the ATM in Belize City, and I called him. I said, well, make sure you get enough money for me too. He said, well, all right. So when he came, he gave me $20. He said, Charles, you have a nickname, they always call me Tapao. He said, Tapao, I want to see you, I want you to come to my house. Here go $20, put gas and come see me because I need to talk to you.
But Charles Noel did not show up. In fact, that was the last time he saw his friend alive. Both men have known each other since Cherestal moved to Belize from Haiti in 1991. He is stumped as to why anyone would want to attack and kill Raymond Cherestal.
Really, I don't know what it is that he wants to speak to me about, but he said he got a lot of problem, but I don't know what kind of problem that he's going through.
So how did you come about learning of what happened here this morning?
Well, one of my Haitian friends, as Mr. Ducey, gave me a call this morning and said that if I hear what happened, I said, no, I don't hear nothing. He said, well, they just called him and said that they shot Ramon. So then I decided to come to Ladyville and find out what's going on with the man.
Upon his arrival, Noel met a team of scenes of crime technicians processing the area outside of Cherestal's home. What is your belief may have happened here this morning?
Well, really and truly, I can't tell you, what really happened. So I don't know what it is the man going through. I don't know if he have any beef with anybody, if any problem with anyone. So they say they find a man laying and, down with a gunshot in the head.
According to Noel, his friend was a well-known taximan in Belize City from back in the day.
In Belize City, the man is well-known because a lot of old taxi driver from back then, because me in Belize from 1991, and from the time there, we are together. He run taxi, and a lot of people know him. Back at Martin, everybody that know him because he used to run Dalavan, that he linked with a lot of people right there. Chinese, Belizean, Spanish, a lot of people know him.
Cherestal's body was transported to the KHMH pending an autopsy. A criminal investigation is underway. Reporting for News 5, I am Isani Caetano.
After the break, we go north to see how prepared Corozal Town is for the state of emergency.
I am Ronald, lineman lead hand at BL. We are an essential service and we are doing everything we can to make sure that we keep the lights on for our customers.
I work outdoors and my job is to provide safe and reliable power.
Our teams continue to serve communities across Belize.
With over 100 years of service excellence in Belize, the Belize Bank Limited recognizes the importance of leading the way as we enter into this fast-growing technological world. Our Belize Bank mobile banking app virtually places a number of banking capabilities in the palm of our customers' hands, anytime, anywhere, through the use of their Android or iOS devices. The Belize Bank, delivering a convenient and enhanced banking experience to meet the demands of our customers' digital lifestyle. The Belize Bank, our country, your bank.
Up north in Corozal Town, lines formed at supermarkets and banks as residents conducted last-minute shopping prior to the start of the curfew. But on Wednesday, a few miles away at the northern border and inside the Corozal Free Zone, the area was deserted as businesses shuttered. The slowdown in economic activity is on as the town prepares for a month of closure. Here is Dwayne Moody with this report.
The impact of COVID-19 on economies has been fast and furious, and as the number of confirmed cases and associated deaths continues to rise, world leaders search for answers. Here in Belize, there are only 3 laboratory-confirmed cases, 2 of which were imported. But even before the start of a state of emergency, major industries, particularly the tourism industry, buckled. The effects extend as far north as the Free Zone in Corozal District, where almost 1,000 employed have been sent home. The Santa Elena border area is at a standstill, and only gas stations inside the zone are still operating. There was a slowdown in traffic even before the closure of all border points last Monday.
The great effect is going to be felt now at the zone. If I'm not mistaken, there is close to 1,000 workers there who are jobless right now. It's not an easy thing to just swallow if you were working there. No, so that means 100 workers without a single penny for the next 30 days.
In Corozal Town today, residents were making last-minute purchases ahead of the 30-day nationwide state of emergency. There were lines outside financial institutions. but a visit to the farmers market shows that the lifeblood of Corozal agriculture has dwindled. Mayor Rigoberto Vello says it was a decision taken by the farmers from 2 weeks ago as a precautionary measure.
From the very beginning, when the first case popped up, the market, it was not closed down by us. It was the vendors who decided not to go to the market anymore to sell. That's an initiative taken by them, which is very good. It shows that, they are willing to work with what is set on standard. No, and I commend them for that. It will take each individual to make sure that everyone out there is safe also. Yes, it will have a tremendous effect on the economy for the whole country and for Corozal, of course. No, it's a pity that it will be mainly here at Corozal, the poor people who will feel. We depend a lot on agriculture also, and those are the people who look forward to the market days to go out and make a small change. We have a lot of people at Corozal that literally lives by what they get at the end of the day, what we call catch and kill. We have a lot of tacos vendors, we have a lot of tamales vendors, people that go out and sell bread. Those are the people that we literally worry a lot. They won't be allowed anymore to make their small change to survive.
Vello says that the revenues collected by the Town Council from market vendors and other establishments has reduced tremendously, threatening the council's ability to service the municipality.
Revenues has been slashed by a lot. Like I said, we are not even receiving 15% of our revenue. No, we are not. And we need to keep in mind all the workers, all the employees of the Corozal Town Council. This is not an administration that will ever think about firing people because of this situation. So it's our duty together with the government to work together to find solutions to the problems that we are having now. We have started doing our shuffling and putting everything into place that is needed for a day like tomorrow. We started here at the Town Council, and if you can see, at the moment we have very minimal workers in the council. The only workers that you can see here are the ones that needs to provide the essential services for our community.
The council employs over 100 persons. Dwayne Moody for News 5.
The economic slowdown is not only affecting central government, but the 9 municipalities in the country. While government can access international funding, the councils require funding for their recurrent expenses. In Corozal, the council currently employs over 100 persons. So what happens going forward if the council cannot pay its staff? At his most recent press conference on COVID-19, Prime Minister Barrow said that an advance of April subventions would be made available to the councils, but that going forward, the councils would have to work on skeleton staff. But Mayor Rigoberto Vello says that at least in the case of Corozal, it has not been getting any subventions since the start of the year. He alleges that instead, those monies are being deposited into the account of contractor Emer Hernandez.
They will have to operate on a bare bones budget, just the minimum necessary, the absolutely essential services. And in terms of doing that, clearly when they reach a point that they don't even have sufficient monies to perform those basic functions, then of course government will have to see how government can assist. That's the duty of government, but remember that we are ourselves strapped, and so it's a kind of vicious circle that we will have to work out. I just don't want to encourage what you would call moral hazard.
We all heard the Prime Minister saying that each council will receive its April subvention. Let's keep in mind that Corozal Town Council has not received any subvention since the beginning of the year. That goes straight to Emer Hernandez account. That's a contract signed by the past administration. Yes, we did get April's subvention, but it's not enough, Dwayne. It's not enough. At this moment, the Town Council is receiving less than 1/3 of its revenue that we used to receive. And we need to pay salaries. In a month, salaries just passed. The 15th is coming again. No, and these are the things that the government needs to look at. And I am hoping that they reach out to each council apart from that April subvention. Because the reality is, yes, they gave us a subvention, and we are very thankful for that. But they filled the hole to create another hole, because when April comes, we won't be able to get that subvention again. No? So we are hoping that whatever finances is there, that the government thinks about the different councils also. We don't want to send any of our staff home without any salary.
Earlier, you heard that municipalities are facing uncertainty on government subventions. Streams of revenue from traffic and property taxes are drying up, and collections have dipped considerably. Under the state of emergency, essential services at the councils are limited to waste disposal and market vending. Minister of National Security Michael Parafit had this to say this afternoon in respect of the councils.
I know there's been a lot of talk with regards to municipalities and whether or not they are listed as essential services. So, for instance, town councillors and mayors, they're not listed as essential services?
No, only the sanitation services from the municipal are deemed to be essential services.
Okay. And so, with regards to marketplaces, is it not the municipality that oversees the marketplace? So how will that be governed, considering municipalities are not listed?
The oversight committee will govern wherever there's a lacuna anywhere, the oversight committee will govern that. So the markets will be monitored by the oversight committee along with the Ministry of National Security to ensure that they're abiding by the law set out for the marketplace.
At the Belize City Council, the circumstances are also dire as the new regulations only allow for waste collection and the market to continue to operate. The council has, however, decided to keep the cemetery office open to accommodate burials, which is not included in the list of essential services. The council sent out a release this morning to explain its predicament. It is now conducting revenue collection online, but it is already seeing a 20% drop in collections. CITCO employs 460 persons and says no one has been let go, but it is crunch time, so it has asked employees to take a 50% cut for the period of April 1st to the 15th. Mayor Bernard Wagner is giving up his April salary, and the deputy mayor and councillors have reduced their stipends by 50%. The council is also placing a 6-month moratorium on non-essential expenditure, such as new jobs and traveling, as it struggles to survive the period of economic upheaval. When we come back, the Chinese Association makes a donation of face masks.
Save, save, save. The credit union way. Save, save, save. It will make you rich someday. Save, save, save. The credit union way. Save, save, save. It will make you rich someday. If you want to save, my friend, the credit union is around the bend. If you want to save, my friend, the credit union is around the bend. No use keeping the money in your pocket. Soon as you turn wrong, you know you ain't got it. So as money goes from hand to hand, give your cash to the umbrella man, I'm telling you. Save, save, save. The credit union way. Save, save, save. It will make you rich someday.
On January 15, 2020, the Environmental Protection Pollution from Plastics regulations were enacted in Belize as a necessary
An initial donation of 5,000 face masks was made by the Belize Chinese Association to the Police Department, the Ministry of Health, as well as the Carl Houston Memorial Hospital earlier today. All three organizations are on the front line in the fight against COVID-19. According to President Johnson Wu, the initial contribution serves as a test run to determine the shipment route for additional donations.
These are the first shipment that we receive, and this first shipment only 5,000 pieces. Actually, it's 6,000 pieces. It's a small amount. This is just for trial the road, because the road is very dangerous right now, even though it's through the air. They have to pass through many different countries. The countries might just took it away. So this is just for the first shipment that we received, and we're going to give it to donate to the police department, health department, and Carl Houston Hospital. And we have a second shipment, which is 20,000 pieces, is coming. We are expecting sometime next week, I hope, or maybe early the week after.
What made you guys decide as an association to reach out to the various organizations with this kind of assistance?
Well, with the condition that we have right now with the COVID-19, and the face masks are the most important protection, and that I think, especially the people in the front line, the essential workers.
According to Compol Chester Williams, an additional 1,000 reusable masks are being acquired through the assistance of a private businessman.
The protection of our officers must always be at the forefront. Yes, while we have sworn to perform the duties that we perform without fear or favor, affection or ill will, we must still ensure that we do our best for our officers' safety. And it is in that spirit that we continue to do our best to acquire the relevant PPEs that our officers need to be able to protect themselves whilst being out there on the streets. And we're very grateful to the Chinese Association for the very kind donation this morning of 1,000 masks. I have spoken to someone who is in the process of acquiring 1,000 additional masks for us. These ones this time are going to be the washable ones that are reusable. And so once we get those, hopefully by tomorrow or early next week, then those likewise will be distributed to the police officers out there.
Coming up after the break, San Pedro Express gives back to its faithful customers from San Pedro and Key Calker. And organizations are stepping up and joining in efforts to assist persons who are being impacted in some way by COVID-19. Today, San Pedro Belize Express made a donation to benefit the residents of San Pedro and Keycaulker. San Pedro was closed down by a state of emergency when the virus was detected on 2 persons. There are no known cases in Keycaulker, but the residents moved quickly to isolate themselves. Here is Duane Moody with this report.
Over $30,000 worth of supplies, flour, sugar, rice, oil, and noodles were handed over to Keycaulker and San Pedro today, courtesy of San Pedro Belize Express. The water taxi has been serving the country for decades, providing services to Belizeans and tourists for travel to and from the 2 top tourist destinations in Belize. The process started as early as 11 this morning when the supplies were loaded onto the 3-star Horizon vessel.
We have co-workers here, we have affiliates, the entire island of Keycaulker and San Pedro, they have supported us tremendously over the years, and we feel that this is just a part of giving back to them, to let us know that they're in our thoughts and prayers, and we're with them throughout this whole thing.
Having received the requisite permits, the vessel and all its cargo set sail east. The first stop was Keycaulker, where Chair Lady Selene Villanueva Pott received the items, which she says will be issued to the most vulnerable. For over 2 weeks now, there has been inactivity on the island because most tourists left as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Even those employed within the tourism industry have returned to their homes on the mainland, and the island is a ghost town.
Everybody knows that Keycaulker is fueled by tourism. The unfortunate threat of COVID-19 is real, it's here. And most of our hotels have shut down, and most of the workers are off the island, but few people who are on the island will need to eat, and this is where this donation will come in. We will definitely distribute to people who needs it the most. We already have a list, but we will revisit the list now because we had some donations from the Chinese community, but with this additional donation from San Pedro Belize Express, it expands. We can now expand the list, which we are very, very grateful for. There are several people who will appreciate any help, and so we're very grateful to San Pedro Belize Express for this.
There were various emotions linked to the next stop, San Pedro, because it is where patient 0 is located. At present, there are 2 laboratory-confirmed cases of COVID-19 on La Isla Bonita, but safety precautions were taken. Even as we disembarked from the city, the crew as well as the media were issued with hand sanitizers and masks as the mission at hand, delivering basic supplies to a community cut off from the rest of the country, was to be completed. Minister Manuel Heredia Jr. received the donation, saying that by next week, distribution to residents is to take place.
At this time of crisis, I believe that whoever and whatever they give us, it's well appreciated. When you have people, particularly San Pedro Belize Express, that has been doing great with both Keycaulker and San Pedro, and when they open up their heart to say, look, we have been making money over here, it is time to give back, I really believe that all business people are supposed to be like that. In good times you make, in bad times you give also. So we really appreciate this good gesture from San Pedro Belize Express. It will be well taken care, it will be bagged, and hopefully by the middle of next week we will be distributing to each home in San Pedro, regardless of politics. This is not time for politics, this is time for unity, this is time to share, to show love, to show appreciation. And that is exactly what we will be doing. From tomorrow we start to bag. There are